Howdy, and welcome to Get Your Mind Right. I'm Marcella Hammer, and I'm the resident unicorn of the Palette community. And this show is all about what the heck is going on in our brains and our human bodies, and what exactly can we do about it. This is a relaunch of something that started in 2020, but we're back again. And by we, I mean me and my incredible guest today, who is Christina Farinacci Roberts. Welcome, Christina.
Thank you for having me, Marcella. I love this. I love when the universe just pulls everything together and I had something and you had something and we're like, let's do something together.
It's so true. Everything that I love about the universe and the world is this collaboration situation that seems to happen sometimes, whether we mean for it to or not. And like you said, the timing for this just worked out perfectly. I was planning to restart Get Your Mind Right because, by golly, life is hard. And it was hard pre-pandemic, but it's hard in new ways now. And I love talking about mental health and how it ties into our lives and our success and our love and our everything. And you are just the perfect person to relaunch this with. So thank you for being here.
I am so excited to be here. Let's do it.
Okay. So part of the reason the timing is so great for this conversation between you and I is that you're about to launch a mastermind program. Is that the right word?
Master class. Mastermind already started, although people can get in on the next cohort if they want to.
So it's a master class. Mm-hmm. And can you just describe a little bit about the topic? Because you'll understand everyone. It fits in. It makes sense.
This is how I am going to pull it all together. So while the masterclass is generally designed for somebody who is either an aspiring, emerging, or even an established entrepreneur, particularly if you are in a service industry like coaching or consulting, really everyone I think could benefit from this, because even if you don't have a signature framework for your business, you can have a signature framework for your life. So part of what started as a signature framework for my business, I had something that I originally called my Head, Heart, Hands framework, which is also the name of my company. And then I had something else that I created called my Foundation for Faithful Flourishing framework, which was more internal, like me as a person. And that was a little bit more like faith-based because I'm a Christian, and I wanted to be able to combine the two in like corporate settings or in business settings. So I turned my Foundation for Faithful Flourishing into a more secular version, which really wasn't hard. It just like I took out like 2 words and replaced them with something else. But the whole thing around, and now I call it my optimize framework, because it's all about optimizing your being in order to maximize your doing, which is going to like accelerate your excelling, if that makes sense. So the optimized framework is, oh no, go ahead. Were you going to say something?
I appreciate on a core level your use of alliteration in everything you do.
I am a former English teacher.
I have to say it
myself. Between alliteration and acronyms, no one is coming at me and going to be able to beat me on that. It's just not happening.
Oh my gosh. I love it so much. It's like Wordle, whatever that Wordle thing is, only for business.
I keep seeing it. Everybody is playing it. I think I tried to download it. I don't know what's happening. Somebody's going to have to explain it to me.
Take that as an invitation, everyone who's watching. Yeah. If you can explain Wordle to us,
help me. I'm not good with tech. I know it's only an app, but I feel like there was 2 on there. I wasn't sure which one it was. Anyway, so back to the optimized framework. It's all centered around this concept of flourishing. Like for me, flourishing really entails having greater freedom, greater fulfillment, and greater flow. Do you see that alliteration there? Flourishing, freedom, fulfillment, flow. Alliteration is actually very practical because it helps us remember things if things start with the same letter. So I really wanted to think about like, okay, if I'm flourishing, what does that look like? How do I achieve that? And I thought about mind, body, spirit, which is obviously nothing new under the sun. People have been talking about that for eons. But I said, okay, I want to make it a little bit more specific and say, I want to have a sound mind, a strong body, and a sage spirit. And I thought about like, how do I get to having a sound mind? So first, I talk about nurturing your belief. You need to nurture your belief. If you believe in a higher power, nurture your belief in that. Nurture your belief in yourself. Nurture your belief in the world and possibilities. That's going to start the foundation. Then we're going to shift to own your identity. We want to think about, a lot of times we think of our identity in terms of what we do, our jobs, our titles. Sometimes we even think about it like relationally, a wife, a mother, whatever. And those are all important, but I don't think that they're the core of us, right? Like, I think our essence, our ultimate identity, for me, I call it being a child of God, but whatever you want to call it, you are a unique creation. There is no other you on the planet who has your gifts and your talents. And that is that's it. There's nothing you can do to be more or less you, right? But you can't add anything to it. You can't take anything away from it. Sometimes I think we get caught up in like worthiness, and it's like your existence, you're just your being. That is enough. And that is what makes you amazing. And so the third
I
part
love
is
that.
establish your purpose, because when you've nurtured your belief and you've owned your identity, you've better positioned yourself to be able to discern who you're being called to be and what you're being called to do. So that takes care of sound mind. Then we get into strong body. So strong body, first we start with treasure your food, which might sound funny because you're like, treasure your food, but it's because I feel like there's a twofold principle here. You have one, like the functional part of food, which is like food as fuel. We want to eat so that we can do all the things that we want to do. But I feel like there's a lot of people who can actually be fueling themselves with healthy foods, but they're miserable. They're like just, they're eating the things they think they should eat and they're not enjoying it. And I feel like there's a pleasure principle to food as well as this. So it's like it can be nutritious and delicious. I believe that God created all these amazing flavors and all these amazing textures and all these different things so that we would enjoy food, not like drudge through our meal so that we do have energy. I mean, he could have just made it like we had a little IV or we plugged into something. I
Right.
think we are meant to treasure our food. So I push people to start having a better relationship with food, recognizing our palates are malleable. Like, we can actually change the things that we want to eat. There is a whole science behind this. I don't pretend to know all of the science, but like, there's things with like exposures, having more
Mhm.
exposures, and that will get you to,
Absolutely. Yeah,
right?
it absolutely works. Now that I'm an adult, I mean, I guess technically I've been an adult for quite a long time now, evidently,
I haven't
but
done.
it's something that I experience even to this day. Within the past 6 months, I decided that I love kale salads.
Oh my gosh, kale salads. Do you massage your kale and
Ye
avocado?
Oh, no, I do the little olive oil and a good
I'm
salt,
gonna tell you
but
right
the
now, this will change your life.
avocado.
You cut an avocado and you take it out and then you massage it into the kale, which also kind of softens it because kale is
Oh,
like a
yes.
hardier
Oh, you
leafy
gotta
vegetable.
massage the kale. You
So you
gotta give it a
massage
little.
the kale. You can add lemon juice, and here's the ticker right here. Everything but the bagel seasoning from Trader Joe's.
Ooh,
It's the simplest salad that will change your life. And then obviously you can add
I love
different
it.
things that you like, red peppers, olives. I like the spiced Thai chili cashews, I think it is, at Trader Joe's. Throw those in there. I mean, it's like a whole party in your mouth.
Oh, we could have a whole conversation about the mental health benefits of shopping at Trader Joe's. Like, I'm totally down
Yes,
for that
that's
anytime.
gonna be our second episode together, talking about the joys of shopping at and
The
eating from
joy.
Trader Joe's.
It,
Trader
it,
Joe's.
it,
Trader
Trader
Joe's.
Joy's is
Trader
right.
Joe's. Maybe they need to add that to their branding. Trader Joy's. That's what it is.
I think that's a good idea. But it's so interesting how as we evolve as adults into adulthood even further and further, that like you said, our palates do change and our sense of self-worth changes and what we think defines us really changes. And what I really love about what you're what you're talking about with this program is that no one is like you. There's never been another you. You are the product of all of your ancestors and every condition of your upbringing and like all of these things. And that for me is very exciting. And it takes off some pressure, doesn't it? Like if you
Yes.
can't be like everyone else, what if you just get really excited about being you?
100%. So then we go from treasure your food to elevate your fitness. So twofold again. First, we just want to start moving because I think sometimes that's just the first step. Like you don't have to be, this is not about becoming an Olympic athlete. This is just saying, what can I do to be a good steward of my body? So first we just want to start moving. But the second side of that coin is I feel like especially when people are first starting to decide they want to start working out, whatever, like everybody starts running. Now, would I love you to run every day versus sitting on your couch every day? Sure. But you know what I'd love even more? If you sprinkled a little variety in there and have your little fitness trinity of having some cardio, having some strength training, and having some sort of flexibility that you're integrating into your lifestyle. So that's that part. And then the last part is build your confidence. Again, twofold. First, I want you to feel comfortable in the skin you're in, love your body where it's at, love and have gratitude for all the things it's done, especially us moms. It's, like BC before Christ, it's like BP before pregnancy. Like we have this in our mind of like, this is what we look like before we had a baby. And now everything after that, there's like this line and it's always going to be different. And maybe it will always be different, but I think we have to, again, like as moms, love the fact that your body was able to, carry a baby, deliver a baby, and care for a baby. And no matter what, even if you are 15 years out and you've got these love handles or these stretch marks, like have gratitude for them because they've allowed you to do all these things. But love yourself enough to do for your body what will be good for your body. And so I want you to also have a confidence in your body's power and your body's ability to do things either it hasn't done in a really long time or hasn't done ever. So whether that's a couch to 5K, whether that's climbing to the top of an Adirondack peak with your family, whether it's deadlifting 200 pounds, whatever it is for you, kind of rooting our fitness goals into our body's power versus a number on a scale or a number on the back of our dress size or whatever. So that
Yeah.
all those three things cover our strong body. And then for stage,
We got to talk about the strong body thing a little bit more because I think it's so important to have yourself in the right mindset when you approach that. And especially because, like, we've all been through so much. We've been contained in our homes for quite a long time, no matter where we are in life. And I feel like a lot of times when people start on a journey of increasing their health, it there's a certain amount of guilt, like, oh, I haven't done this before. And like there's this setting oneself up for failure almost. And I think a lot of times people take on goals that are either too big or don't even align with what they think is fun. And that's what I appreciate about you saying, like, some people love to run. I used to love to run. Now I'm like an injured person. So
yeah,
it's not part of what it makes me happy.
yeah.
I love mountain biking. And for me, I'm able to do that mostly pain free. And so that is a direction that I like to take. I would love to be able to deadlift a man. That may be a goal that comes about in the future. But I
I
think,
love
especially when you're talking about like that physical power and the power of our own bodies, it's so important to not listen to anyone but yourself. And like maybe you just
yeah.
want to take some walks with your
Yes.
dog.
Oh my gosh. Walking,
Is the
yoga,
best. Oh,
like anything where you are moving in an intentional way. And I love that
mhm.
you brought up the joy factor because I forgot to bring
You
that up. I
have to
brought
you
it up with
have to love
you.
it or you're
The
never going to
joy
do it.
factor. I'm going to say this, and joy can be, we can get expansive with that definition because I always say I'm a reluctant runner. I am a novice CrossFitter and I am an unconventional yogi. So when I run, I say I am not a runner, actually. I am a person who runs. And runners will be like, no, no, no. If you run, you're a runner. And I'm like, no, runners, like, you love being out there. You can't wait for that brisk wind going through. I am never that person. I have up until this point, I have run 2 half marathons. I've done some 10Ks. I've done a bunch of 5Ks. I would never describe myself as like enjoying it in the moment.
Oh,
Sometimes it's less arduous than
girl,
this, but I
nobody
love
does.
the
Nobody
feeling.
loves it.
I love the feeling that I get at the end of the run. The endorphins are going. Same thing with CrossFit. Literally every CrossFit class, 30 seconds in, I'm cursing myself out for
Oh yeah.
having signed up for this and paying money to be tortured. And you know, cursing my coach out that's doing the thing. But I get to the end of that workout and I feel like a badass because I'm like, I just laid it all out. Sometimes it's great and I hit a PR, and other times I barely finish. But either way, I feel stronger. I feel good for just showing up for myself. That's really what it's about, is that I showed up for myself. And even with yoga, I am not a naturally flexible person. I was a cheerleader in high school, all American, did all that. But like I had to work for it. Like it wasn't, some of these other folks were like, you know, they could just show up and it'd be great. But it's like even if it's not, it's like find the things that bring you joy, even if it's at the end. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, because some people like the feeling that, oh, but then they feel that good part at the end. But I agree with you that if you get to the end and you still feel like, ugh, don't do that. Because you
Yeah,
won't
you got to
stay
find
with it.
new.
You won't stick
Yeah.
with it if that's the case. So yes,
Yes.
I'm glad that you brought that up. And yes,
And
just rooting
it's
in.
okay. Like, I think a big part of that too is that I understand you not calling yourself a runner, but the core of what I get from that is that you show up knowing that you're going to be uncomfortable, but knowing that there's a reward at the end. And that applies to our physical health. It applies to our mindset with business, especially if you're an entrepreneur, but
Oh
really
my
like in
gosh.
so many parts of our lives, even relationships where like you have to be emotionally and physically prepared that it's not going to be comfortable the whole time.
Yes.
And like you're saying, being able to attend to these different aspects of your life makes it maybe a little bit easier in the long
Yes.
run to show up for that discomfort, knowing that
Yes.
there's a reward.
Get comfortable with being uncomfortable is one of our gym's mantras, and I love it because it is. And you talk so much about this, and Catherine talks so much about this. Like growth happens in that space of discomfort, right? That's when we're going to stretch ourselves. And so I love the other last part I would say before we switch to stage spirit is that it's community. It comes back to community. All 3 of those things, runners tend to have a really good, I mean, if you've ever been in a runners club, CrossFit, it's dang near cult like, and yoga too. It has the same thing. Like when you plug into a community of people who have the same goal of, again, I love rooting anything with strengthening your body in stewardship. Like be a good steward of your body. You're a good steward of your bank account. You're a good steward of your lawn. You're a good steward of your children, of all these other things. And it's like, be a good steward of your body. Like it is the vessel that's carrying you, right? And being able to do all those things that we covered in the sound mind. You can't live out your full purpose if you're exhausted all the time, or you know you feel winded. So that's the connection there. And then when we go to sage spirit, we talk about first revel in wisdom, whatever your sacred texts are. If it's the Bible, the Bhagavad Gita, if it's Glennon Doyle's Untamed,
Oh
whatever.
wait, I've got one for you. Mine is Women Who Run with the Wolves by Dr. Clarissa Pinkola Estes.
I love it.
I,
I love it.
it
I
is.
don't know. I've never heard of it, but just from the
Oh,
title, I
it's
already know what it's about. I already know what
oh
it's
yeah.
going to give you. So having those texts that you can go to find your strength, your comfort, your hope, your joy, your peace, whatever, that's, you need to incorporate that. Next is, and this is totally aligned with palette, grow in fellowship. If you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, do you have the right people that you're in community with? I talk about plant, prune, preserve. So
Of course
sometimes
you
you have
do.
to plant new seeds, right? You have to, but you have to, you're looking around, you're like, I think I need some new friends in my life because I just don't feel the energy or the vibe or the people who are aligned to the ambitions that I have and are supportive of what I'm doing. Sometimes you have to prune. I'm not saying you have to cut people off completely, but sometimes you have to prune relationships, put some boundaries around things to protect your own energy and honor the sacredness that is you, and limiting people who are not going to pour into you in the way that you need to be poured into, or be reciprocal of the way you're pouring back into them. And then lastly is preserve, right? So you probably hopefully have at least one relationship that is awesome and does this, but you have to remember to preserve it and maintain it, because it's really easy to get out of sync with people because we get caught up in our own lives, and then you lose out on all the benefits of being in fellowship with that person. So that's number 2. And then lastly, we say prosper and practice. So whatever spiritual practice, it could be prayer, it could be meditation, it could be journaling, it could be yoga, whatever type of practice that's going to help you to be in touch with your spirit and to nurture it and edify it and honor it. Like, that's what we want to do. So that is an example. What I just shared is an example of a framework. How this connects to entrepreneurs. So if you are a coach, chances are there's 1,786,332 other coaches in that space, even the niche of your space. Even if you're like an eating coach, or you are a business coach, or whatever kind of coach you are, there's already a lot of people who are doing it. And I also believe that there's nothing new under the sun, right? Like, all of human ideas, but you have a way that you come to the work that you do from a certain lens. And I don't want to get too much into what I cover, but it's like, we talk about the fact that people have a certain paradigm, they have a certain promise, and they have a certain process. And that's what we
Even
want.
that alliteration.
I know. I'm here for days. So it's like, when you have that, this becomes a way for you to do so much with your actual business and growing it, like differentiating yourself, being able to market it, sell it in the client delivery. There's so many ways that you can use this framework. And then even developing your offerings, it's going to allow you to ensure that your business is both scalable and sustainable, which is very, very important, if you want to, have a successful business with some longevity and with a
Yeah,
life,
and isn't that the point?
right?
We do.
And I will say this last point. So the master class is going to cover how you could create your own framework. Like, I give you uh, both, I would say, again, going back to my head, heart, hands, it's like I give you some of the mindset stuff and some of the thought process stuff, but I also bring in the heart space of, like, before you even go into talking about what you're going to do with your business, what kind of lifestyle do you want to live? What kind of life do you want to have, so that you're creating a business that is aligned and is going to advance the lifestyle that you want? Versus a lot of entrepreneurs, I think, get disappointed that they wind up creating a job for themselves. Like, they are the entrepreneur, they are the boss of themselves, but they are still in a grind in the same way that they were when they were an employee to somebody else. So, like, I want to help people to build their businesses in a way that literally lights them up, and they're doing the things that are in their zone of genius, and they're doing things that bring them joy. And so we get into that, but then we get into the practical. So, like, okay, what are the actual steps that I need to take to build out this framework? And then what would I do with the framework? after the fact. So people can take the masterclass. They can, if they love the masterclass and they want to get a little bit more hand holding or have some group accountability and support, I have a 12-week mastermind as well as a 12-week, what I call apprenticeship. So the apprenticeship is 1-to-1. And my next cohort of the mastermind will start in April. And tentatively right now, I have with our palette partner at Enliven, right? Retreat
Yes.
Center.
Yes.
The weekend of May 20th, we're taking the 12-week program, the 12-week mastermind, and we're condensing it. So what would be a 3-month program is really going to be a 3-day, because we're going to do an intensive, but we're going to have all of these yummy little things in between that like allow us to treat ourselves in the same space of time. So that's another way that people could.
This is so exciting. I'm so hyped that you're bringing this into an in-person experience at Enliven, which is a gorgeous space. And
so nice. And it's going to be, I mean, it's like
nature.
prime springtime
Mhm.
in Vermont. Come on. And it's like, if you haven't already been there, you need to check it out. It's the cutest space with the most lovely people who create
They are
it.
lovely. Carrie's wonderful. They're wonderful. I cannot wait to put that on the calendar. This is so good. Okay, so I put the link to the sign up for your master class,
Yes.
which starts tomorrow, into the chat here. It should go out on all of the channels. And if you're not a Palette member and you're on our email list, it just popped into your email box while we were talking, as though the world collided.
I love it.
It's amazing.
And if people can't make it live, there'll be a recording and you can watch the video, and I will likely sell the replay, but it's not the same. If you're there, I can actually answer your questions live and you can get a little, one-on-one happening.
I love it. Well, I adore you. And thank you for relaunching this series with me. I'm so excited to just have these conversations. And you really were just the perfect guest to start it off with.
Well, you are just the perfect person, period. I love you.
Oh my God. Thank you. I love you too. Okay. Off we go into the rest of our day. And thank you, Christina, for being so open and honest and for being exactly who you are. And
and cheers to everyone flourishing in 2022. Can I get an amen?
Oh my gosh. Yes, please. Yes, please. We're all ready.
You know that emoji that's like this?
Yeah.
Flourishing, please, right here.
Yes. Yes. We can all do that alone in our homes with our hands.
Yes.
Yes, please.
Yes, please. All right. Have a great rest of your day.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. You too, dear.